guys. So we just hit 1 p.m. Brisbane time. Thank you for all of you that are joining us for this webinar today. So just to get started, my name is Leticia Pescador, and I'm one of the technical consultants within H2K. I've been working within H2K for about 5 years now, and I've been involved in lots of implementation, training, and support as well. So here within H2K, we pretty much provide our clients also services to help them implement the software we sell. I work for the consulting team, so I'm highly involved on those implementations and training as well. So this is not only focused within the AC industry, but also manufacturing and mining, etc. Why H2K? So H2K pretty much has offices all over Australia to assist our clients. We've been standing out in helping people transition to those technologies, as well as being major software partners within ANZ. Also, we have customer commitment to try to deliver our best excellence within services and sales for our clients. So from here, we just gonna jump within those Revit tips and tricks. So this webinar is focused in just give you guys a little bit of an overview of what's available within Revit to help you speed up those common tasks. We're just going to be using out-of-the-box capabilities. This is targeted against basic users as well as more advanced members. Maybe you haven't remembered certain capabilities or you're not aware of them. So I hope you can get a really good understanding from this webinar and start using those tips to improve your workflow. So I hope you enjoy. So the first tip will be keyboard shortcuts within Revit. So when you go through the View tab and the user interface, keyboard shortcuts within Revit can be pretty much customizable. So you can utilize, you can remove existing shortcuts and assign new shortcuts for commands. And those keyboard shortcuts later on can be imported and exported. So when you grabbing new versions of Revit, or even if you want to change computers, you can just have those keyboard shortcuts pretty much created and customized to the keys you are used to. Next tip will be Revit Panels. So when you're using Revit to create or perform certain tasks, maybe on this example, we're just doing a little bit of a detail, we can drag and drop those panels out from the main Revit ribbon and interface. And when you're happy with those tools, you can just use that same tab and press the arrows to send those panels back. If you shut down Revit and you restart the software, you will always remember the panels you have within those panels. Sorry guys, just gonna quit this, sorry. Okay, so sorry for that, about the interruption. Next tip will be your capability to work across multiple views within the same model, or even if you have multiple models open. So your capability to tile views within the software will enable you to either see multiple views that belongs from the same project, or if you require a second project opened within your Revit interface, you can also use that to double check across those multiple views. So any changes you perform across views in Revit will be automatically reflected, and you can double check that as well. Next tip will be formulas. So who never had a calculator next to your table doing calculations while you designing? So with Revit, when you add the equal symbol or in front of any temporary dimensions or fields, any numerical fields within the software, we can start creating calculations. So we don't need to be using the calculators. We can just pretty much use the interface itself to create those quick calculations that may be required within your projects. Next tip will be about copying. So that is the copy option within the top, but you also have the capability to hold control while you're dragging an object with the interface, and that will enable you to quick copy. Also, under the copy and paste options under the modify tab, you're gonna be capable to copy to multiple levels. So if you need things to be aligned across multiple levels, this is a great tool to just copy objects and geometry across those multiple levels. Next will be your capability to create similar. So create similar is a tool that is available within the interface that will enable users to pretty much select an object. And from the selection, we can just hit the option to create similar, either at the top of the ribbon or by right clicking. Also, if you guys type in CS, that will be the shortcut for creating similar objects. And that will help us to pretty much get the same type within those families as well. So that may save some time. Next is the tip to use the spacebar to rotate families. So either families that you require to place or families that have been placed can be rotated using the spacebar on your keyboard. Okay, so line work tool. The line work tool within the interface will enable users to pretty much override object geometry to represent different line styles. So in this example, we're just using the line work tool to represent the overhead hidden lines for the roof that it has an overhang on the counter yard. The good thing about using the line work tool is that the line work itself is attached to the object. So if you go ahead later on and perform adjustments, for example, in the overhang, and that will automatically update the line work. When we're using the line work tool within Revit, we also need to be aware that if we're deleting the object, we're deleting the actual geometry, so not really just the line work. So when we're using the line work tool, we always choose the invisible line style as a standard line style under the drop-down menu to hide those lines if required. Dimensioning. So when you use the dimension tool within the software, you guys gonna have a option under the options bar within the interface to pretty much change from individual references to picking tile walls. So this is when we pretty much require to specify that pick in tile walls option, and then we have the options enabled where we can start specifying if we also want to grab openings or intersecting walls. By using that tool to pick in tile walls, that will enable us to just very quickly start going around our models and place those dimensions, picking those objects that we have enabled. So that will be a very, very quick way to start dimensioning your drawings. Okay, then we start dealing with tagging. So when you're tagging objects in Revit, we can do that one by one. Also, we can use the tag all option to tag based on a selection, or we can also choose to tag all objects that are visible within the current view. When using this option, you're going to be able to pretty much enable multiple category tags and then tag all the objects very, very quickly. You can also enable leader lines if required and choose different tag types if they are loaded and available within your projects. Color schema. So Revit will have a capability to create a color schema within those drawings. So color schemas, they pretty much use parameter-based rules to color code rooms, spaces, areas, or HVAC zones. So for this example, we very quickly creating using the color schema, just a floor finish color coding. So you may be on your very early stage of your project and you just want to really enable the hatch to represent different floor types within the rooms. This is a great way to very quickly just color code based on parameters. So your room parameter in this example already has a field for floor finishes. And I'm just pretty much assigning different fill patterns, and we can also adapt to have different colors for those different entries or different parameters, different values. When a color schema is assigned to a view, which is done through the view properties, that will then start reflecting that hatch. So that will help us to pretty much very quickly just assign hatch patterns within those rooms. So when you finish that, any room that had left behind, so if you forget any room, you can just select them, add values to the parameter we've been using, and that will automatically color code those locations. Also, when this is done, this would be available for multiple views. So I could just jump into different floor plans and then again assign the same color schema. Color schema can be used for multiple reasons. In this case, we can also create color field legends to identify what those hatches are representing under our project. So playing with that color field legend, we can add title and then also a preview of the floor type. And then that will enable us to also have the representation. Next, view templates. So when we are dealing with Revit, either if you want to use view templates to standardize your deliverables. So in this example, I have a view which has a color schema applied and also different view settings. So maybe you want to add just a single view to have all the settings display of families and graphical behavior of them that are required for your deliverable plan types. From there, you can pretty much create view templates from views. View templates will enable us to include all the values that are visible within the screen at the moment, including scale, control of all the visibility and graphics override. So the whole idea of having view templates is that we can apply the same look or the same style and settings across multiple views, being across multiple projects or multiple levels, that will ensure that our deliverables will be consistent within those plan types. View templates are also great to do Q&A checks. So sometimes if you need to do any check on anything, you can just go ahead and use view templates as well. When view templates are applied, often those settings will be grayed out. So anything that the view template controls will be grayed out within the properties of views. temporary view properties. So Revit will have a button at the bottom of the screen to enable temporary view properties. So we know that if we apply a view template, that will remember those settings. So this option will enable us to pretty much temporarily apply settings from view templates to double check if that's what's required. And then we can restore the original view settings. On-site view template is applied within Revit, within a view, even though we unassign the view template, the view itself will always remember the last settings that were assigned from that template. So this is just a great tip to double check those before we go ahead and assign. Schedules. So Revit schedules, for those who have been using Revit for a couple months or years, you know how powerful schedules can be. So schedules can help us managing information within our model. So finding and changing values within those families. Also, there are a lot more capabilities within those schedules that will enable us to highlight values based on rules, etc. But within this example, we just using the schedule to pretty much help us with tagging, and pretty much the values are globally updated. Also, when you have like view lists, for example, we can use those views lists to control and manage those chains that we are performing within views. So if we go ahead and we start selecting a couple views within the view list and we decide to delete them, that would remove those views from projects. So whether you're sharing projects and you want to see which views are placed within title blocks, or if you want to double check with view templates are assigned to those views, we can pretty much use view schedules to achieve all those tasks as well. Scope boxes. So scope boxes in Revit will be a tool available under the view panel. Scope boxes will have names that we can give to them. So scope box can be used to pretty much crop as well as controlling areas or regions within our project. So sometimes when you have multiple zones or multiple areas within your projects, you can use those scope boxes to quickly help you cropping those views. So when we use scope box and we assign scope boxes to views, that will help us to maintain the consistency across the crop region, across multiple levels. Also, scope boxes can be utilized to rotate views. So if you have wings within buildings that are within maybe different rotations, scope boxes can be used to rotate those views. Also, when they are selected within 3D views, we can use a scope box to create a selection box and section through those 3D models as well. Okay, so view cube. Not many people is aware of this option, but when we go through the view cube and we right click, we can orient our 3D views to different floor plans. So for example, we can orient that to one of the plans that we have available within our project, and that pretty much creates that section box, which is the standard section box within a 3D view. Also, we re-enable, if we disable and re-enable the section box, just be aware that it really doesn't remember the latest settings, but we can also just right-click, duplicate 3D views to have those multiple 3D views, either aligned to sections or plans, etc. Exploded axonometric. So Revit will have a option under the 3D view to enable us to start displacing geometry from the original geometry. So this tool will just be impacting the views we select. And that will enable us to move geometry away from the location that they were. So when we create those displacement options, we can pretty much add and remove objects and have multiple objects displaced, which will then enable us to open up our house as we have in this example. Also will enable us to create path lines from where those objects are coming from. That will pretty much just place lines to represent where the object came from. When we're dealing with these displacement views, we also going to have a option under the ribbon to reset that displacement set, which means we'll take our 3D back to original shape. Selection options. So a lot of the time people, I struggle on moving things around without knowing or dragging things by mistake. So the 5 options we have within the screenshot on the left hand side of the screen, it's pretty much our capability to enable and disable selection based on the 5 options that are available within the software. So you're going to have options to enable or disable the selection of links, underlays, pinned objects, also the elements by face, which is quite critical. So if you want to select something by clicking in the middle of a room, that option to select elements by face will help you on clicking the face of any object and select it. Also, you have an option that can be enabled and disabled to drag elements on selection. The 5 options we have under the modify axis are also available at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And that will be our capability to just enable and disable those options as required within our projects. Okay, so we can also select objects and use the filter tool that is available on the ribbon to help us identify and filter the selection based on categories. So when we're using this filter tool, it will be available either at the ribbon or at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. It always tells us as well how many objects we are selecting. Select previews. So this is a tool that not many people wear, but pretty much it's quite common to just select a couple objects, or maybe we're going around multiple locations to select those objects, and then we click by mistake, and then all of a sudden the selection just disappears. So if that happens, sorry guys, if that happens, we can pretty much just right click within the view, and by right clicking within the view, we're going to be able to select previews. So if we go ahead and we pretty much disable a selection and you need to go back, undo doesn't work, we can just right click, select previews, and that will remember our last selection. Selection box. So anytime you're working within Revit projects, especially large ones, it's hard to put us in a 3D view to find certain locations. So the selection box tool will enable users to pretty much jump from a location. So you may be selecting just a couple objects within a certain location you require to work with. And then that will pretty much enable a section box around that location. So the selection box tool will enable us to remember the location and jump straight into that place. So who never double clicked on a family or a tag very quickly and then was sent to the family editor by default? So Revit will have an option under the file options to disable that double clicking. So when you go to the user interface, you're going to have the option to double click options under the software, and that can be customizable. So if you change that to do nothing when double clicking, you should prevent users to just double click by mistake and jump into tags or families. Transfer project standards. So this tool enables us to transfer system families as well as project settings across multiple projects or templates. So in this example, I have one of the Autodesk sample projects which has multiple staircases. And I have my house project which just had a handful of staircases. So with this tool to transfer project standards, we require to have both projects open, and then we always go through the Manage tab, and the transfer project standards will list at the top all the open projects. So we can choose which projects we want to copy from. Within the list, we're going to have all the project settings and system families available. In this example, we just copying the stat types. We also going to be prompt to overwrite or just bring in new ones. And that will allow us to bring those system family types back to or copy those system settings into our projects. This is a great tool to also manage templates, copy wall types, floor types, roof types, etc. Insert from file. So when we are dealing with Revit and we are playing with drafting views or schedules, we're going to have this capability to pretty much go through the Insert tab, and the Insert from File option will enable us to copy views across files. So this is a great tool to copy, especially like details, standard details like drafting views. Also, if you create a schedule that you had on a previous project and you want to reutilize across multiple projects, or even take it back to your to your templates within your organization, you can pretty much copy those across. So, of course, when we are dealing with schedules, they're going to become populated as we place objects within our projects, but we can very quickly just copy whatever was already available instead of creating them from scratch. And this is a great tool to copy standard details across multiple projects, and even have a master details file where maybe everyone on your organization are copying those standard details across. Nested families. So Revit has the capability to tag and schedule nested families. So sometimes people will deal with super families, and we call super families your capability to have a family in Revit which has multiple families loaded within it. So this is a very basic example where we have a dinner table and just a couple of chairs, but our schedule was just picking the table. So when we dealing with those nested families, Revit will have a shared checkbox within those families. So this checkbox will enable us to pretty much schedule and tag those nested families within the family. So in this example, as soon as I saved this dining table with a shared chair inside, that schedule, that furniture schedule will start then quantifying those chairs as well. So not only the tables. We can also tap through to select just the individual objects and double check the information. So now the furniture schedule will start quantifying those chairs. So this can be used with any families you may require to quantify the nested components. In place to RFI. So who never created an in-place family and then couldn't edit or wanted to use in a different project and couldn't because it was locked into a project. So when we editing in-place families, so after you create the in-place family, we need to go inside that family again. And then we should be able to pretty much create a group. So when you are editing in place and you go to the group option under the mode, we're going to be able to save the in place family as a group. And the trick is being in the in place location. And then after you save that family as a group, before you finish the in-place editor, we can pretty much save that group from our project browser. So if we go through our our groups section and we find the group that we just created, we can save that group from our project into a location. So when we prompt to save, you're gonna notice that the in place family will automatically become a RFA. So from there, we can start opening that family with a family editor. And maybe you wanna start parameterizing that family, or you may wanna load within a different project. When you do those tasks within a family and you're going to translate, my tip would be make sure that those families are within the level 0, because it will take those across as well to the family editor. So then from now on, those families can be loaded into multiple projects. And then one of the last tip for today is work set preview visibility. So throughout the years I've been teaching, I noticed that not many people is aware of this work sharing display settings. So this option under the bottom will enable us to pretty much double check if someone is editing an object, who are the owners of objects, model updates, or also it enables us to color code based on work sets. So this is a very good way of quickly checking if those objects belongs to the correct work sets. So when we start going through those options, that will pretty much color code based on what option we are selecting, and we can update those colors as well. Model updates will work in a way that any differences between the central file and the copy you have will pretty much be highlighted. Also, the work sets one is one that I love because it really enables us to color code objects based on the work sets they are within. So we can clearly very quickly see if something is on the wrong work set and we did a mistake. So we can just go ahead, select the object, and then swap that work set within the specific object. This is a really, really great tool. So it color codes those objects to very, very quickly and clearly show users if something is within the wrong work set. So here in this example, I can also pick that specific window, which is highlighted also in blue within the facade that clearly is placed within the wrong work set. So this is a great option to pretty much review what your team is doing and take that to your advantage and avoid those warnings all the time to ask permissions. And when this is, when you wanna, you can just turn that, that temporary mode off as well. Okay, guys, so that takes us towards the end of the session. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to type on the Q&A panel. I'll be opening the chat in the Q&A panel here to be answer those questions. So can color schema be applied to rooms from a linked model? Yes, you just need to make sure that you enable that room the rooms. So the rooms will need to belong to the host file, but you need to enable your links to behave as a room boundary. So you can't really apply that to the link, but on your host file, if you enable that model to have those rooms as boundaries and you have rooms within your host, you can definitely apply color schemas. Thanks for organizing the webinar. Yes, we're going to be providing a record for those that attended the session with a follow-up email. Um, Yes, so someone is asking if we have other sessions. So H2K is running webinars, and under the events page of H2K, which I will leave that on, you can always check for those webinars. We have webinars on various topics, so pretty much just stay tuned, check the events page. They are all for free. You guys can just register, and then you're going to have technical resources delivering them as well. Okay, guys, I think I have answered all the questions. I just want to see if anyone else has any other questions. I will wait for a couple more seconds. So, guys, also, if you have any other questions about training, implementation, assistance, etc., feel free to reach H2K under the info email. So we're more than happy to run demos within for our clients within softwares you may want to know, or maybe features you want to investigate, like BIM 360, etc. I have someone here asking in the chat box, I have a linked file with opaque tag text. Can I make services running across it to be on top? Not sure I understand the question. If I have a linked file with opaque text, can I make services running across it to be on top? So one option you can do with those links, you can always control the visibility of those categories from the link within your host file. So even though you may be provided a link that display tags and you don't want to display that specific tag, you can either choose to disable the visibility through the annotation tab on your visibility and graphics, but you can also control the links individually if required. So I would say that the answer should be yes, but I will reach you back on that question because I'm not sure I understood what that means. I have someone here asking what's the best way to create a family in Revit. Okay, so I deal with lots of interiors and this is a common question. So my take will be always I would go for the family editor regardless of being parametric or not. So even though you guys may be just creating a bespoke item, or if you're just gonna do joinery, a custom joinery, I would always go to the family editor. In-place model is quite cranky if you start adjusting and moving panels, etc. It's not my option, to be honest, but I understand people like the in-place. So I would use the in-place tool to do things like maybe I want to extend a railing, or I want to just add bits and pieces within my 3D. This is when I would use an in-place, but I would avoid using the in-place model as much as I could within Revit. Even though we are also creating those families within the family editor, we have the capability to pretty much parameterize them later on. So I would not spend time parameterizing families and creating parametric relationships if you're just going to be using that family in a single project. I would just spend time creating parametric families for those families that are required across multiple projects, because it will take longer to create, but it will save time down the track. I have another question. What's the best way to create a template in Revit? So we do create templates for clients. So there are key points that we cover when we're creating templates for clients as well. So you can either, in Revit, if you have a good project that you like with the settings that you want to use, you can always save that project as a template and delete the data. In saying that, you also can custom develop. So usually we look into all the standard things that can upstream our workflow. So we usually create all the views that we require within our deliverables. So the common views, title blocks, all the title block families that are required, tags, text styles, dimensions, etc. So usually those system families as well. So the floors and the walls, etc. Talking from an architectural perspective. So that will help users that don't have that greater understand to pretty much just speed up their workflow as they go ahead and start creating new projects. They have always the same standards available within the template. We do create templates. So if you want to reach us back, I'm happy also to reach you out about template. And we do that all the time for our clients. So even for those who are not with a really long understand or a greater understand of the software, we suggest workflows as well, depending on the deliverables and the background you have. I have another question here. So when dealing with big projects, let's say few blocks of apartments and different types of units, do you suggest to model the units separately and link all the units? Model it per block or model it as one project model? Any suggestion? So usually when we have those block of apartments, I've seen people doing that in a different way. So some people may do that as a group. Some people may do that as links as well. So the benefit of doing those options is just that if you do that as a group, once you update a single group, you may have the same block of units across multiple levels. That group will automatically update across your entire project. So also you can start playing with like design options, etc. So it varies a little bit on what, depending on how you're going to put that together, but usually it's either links or groups. No right or wrong answer. It's more based on depending on what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so guys, that takes us to the end of our session. I don't think I got any other questions. I will just double check the chat as well. Okay, so no other questions. If I bind, I have a few on the chat. Let me just say if I can get there. So Tech is blocking my service. I would like the text review. I think I've answered there. So I have, if we bind a Revit link into another file, is there a way to remain annotations and dimensions? So that's a trick one. Yeah, so pretty much when we bind in the project, we have limited options on what we copying, but usually we copying just the geometry levels, etc. grids. So my suggestion would be, why not leave that as a link only? Could you leave that as a link only? I will send that question back to you to have a think about, because with the links you would be able to see and annotate if required, or see exactly what that view was by controlling the link settings as well. Okay, guys, so I think that takes us to the end. Thanks, Grant. A webinar on design options would be great too. I'll definitely make a note on that and definitely incorporate that within the webinars list. I would like to thank you all for attending today's session, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you could refresh your memory or grab even 2 or 3 new tips from this class. Really grateful that you all participating and really enjoy this session. Have a nice day, and yeah, I hope see you within session support or around Australia. Thank you. Bye bye.